afternoon, good evening, good night, and welcome to another edition of the GreenBaje podcast. As always, that is Ajay. He is the Green. I am Ken. I am the Beige. And we are here for the 27th edition of this third season of the GreenBaje podcast. AJ, how's it going, my brother?
Doing well, sir. Doing well. Yeah. That's all I got for now. I'm all right. And yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. This is Colorado. This is supposedly spring, but the Midwest is being hit with a snowstorm as we
Oh
speak.
crap! I didn't even know that.
Yeah, boy, we had snow showers last night
Yeah.
into snow flurries today. I drove to work in snow. I drove back home in snow. Outside it's quite cold, but it's not as cold as like right now. It says
Yeah.
27 degrees Fahrenheit
Yeah.
on the counter, but it does not feel that cold. If that makes sense,
No, it
it's
does.
it's
It does. I get what you mean.
It's
I get
really,
what you mean.
really weird. I hope it for
Yeah.
your sake that this cold weather does not filter over to you because Colorado is built to take the cold. Texas is not.
We yesterday we hit 90. Today we hit about 85. I ain't know about any snow coming here. It's starting to feel like summer already.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see how it goes because next week, Monday, I'm going to be at 80 degrees Fahrenheit. But that's the way it goes in
Yeah.
Colorado. We go from spring to summer, and chances are there'll be some snow right around the corner.
Sorry, here.
Man, it is what it is. We all we can do is take it as it comes, right?
True. True.
All right, so this week, as always, we like to go off the rip. Off the rip, this week, our episode is called Pink Slips and Champions because there's been, well, some champions crowned in the NCAA, and a lot of pink slips have been handed out this season, and I think it's about time we talk about it. Excuse me. Normally, we stick pretty closely to the gridiron, but this week has been pretty quiet on that front. So we move from football to the real football, the one that's played with your feet, to kick this week's show off. The English Premier League this season has been the gift that keeps on giving. And what it's been giving most of all are pink slips, pink like AJ's shirt, or walking papers. This season has seen the greatest number of head coaching changes in league history with 13, three more than its former watermark of 10. Chelsea FC and Southampton account for four of those firings alone, having sacked their gaffer twice this season so far. Of the 13 men fired, seven were fired after February 1st, which is of itself a record. Of course, the rationale for these firings vary significantly because we have clubs from the relative top, middle, and bottom that have let their managers go. We can't pick the bones of everyone who got sacked, or we'd literally be here all night. But let's start with the most, as far as I'm concerned, disgusting of the lot. Chelsea Football Club, who has paid reportedly £25 million to Brighton to get Graham Potter and his staff out of their jobs and hire them to be their head coach, only to fire him before the end of the season. So, AJ, my first question to you tonight is: was this firing justified?
It was. It was. And I know this discussion is going to take a different turn at some point, but let me start off by answering that question. It was. He had to go based on how things were going. I know. Look, the reality is that 90% of the reason that Chelsea fired um, Potter when he did is because Nagelsmann was free, and they want to go after Nagelsmann. He's more of a supposed to be more of a golden child, a prodigy manager than Graham Potter was. It was kind of a weird decision to hire Potter in the first case, but again, we'll get into that. Um, that was a lot of it, but I think they had justifiable reason based on how results were going, based on the way Chelsea was playing, and let's be honest, even as a manager, tactically, Graham Potter did not cover himself in any sort of glory. So Yes, he deserved to be sacked. I mean, he came in during the season, so I mean, some people might say it's harsh, but again, he didn't do much to help himself. So he had to go. It would have happened at some point. They just made the move when they expected to be able to get what they consider a better candidate.
So this particular question, I'm a little bit ambivalent on. Uh, so we have a comment in the chat. Barbados MUFC says, "Good night, Chelsea go through more men than Laurie Harvey." That is interesting to say the
Wow,
least.
wow.
Yeah. So to Chelsea, I have some sympathy for Graham Potter. And the reason I have some sympathy for Graham Potter is Graham Potter had, I mean, first off, Chelsea. All right, let me start here because this is the one statement I need to make before I make all others. Chelsea is not a job that any manager who is looking to make his name should go to. Chelsea is where you go to collect severance. I have a statement I make whenever they hire a manager. Severance is loading because they will get fired. It's only a matter of when. So to this particular situation though with Potter, Chelsea's philosophy has changed from what it has been recently with the change of ownership. Because Abramovich, he was their owner for a while, and because of this war in Ukraine, his position became untenable. He sold the club to Todd. I don't know how to pronounce his name. If it's Bailey, I really don't know. Um, Barbados and UFC, he also adds sustainability and Chelsea don't go in the same sentence. Them and Spurs. We coming. Don't we can get there. Don't worry. So with Todd taking over at Chelsea, he decided that he was going to get rid of Tuchel. Tuchel was not his guy. This is what we see with ownership groups in NBA and NFL all the time. They decide if they like the guy that's there or if they want to bring in their own guy. He decided he wanted to bring in his own guy. That guy was Graham Potter. But some clubs have sporting directors, others do not. Chelsea does not have a sporting director. Todd calls all the shots. In a lot of cases, clubs that don't have sporting directors, they allow their managers to get involved with the recruitment part of what they're going to do. They get them to help scout or at least identify targets, and then they go after the targets. They try to integrate them into the squad, and then they go from there. AJ, Chelsea bought about 50 players between summer and January. There ain't a manager alive that will be able to get all of those players integrated into that squad and make them into a cohesive unit. When Potter came in, he did not have a preseason and with which to try to get the team to play according to his philosophy. And then when he's working on tactics, yes, the results have not been there, but the team has not been in a position that you would say that they're in danger of relegation. But again, we can get to that in a second.
Hmm.
But you bring in all of these players for a coach who has just come from a smaller club, dealing with a smaller, close knit group of players, and expect him to make miracles happen. It does not work that way in football. We've been watching football long enough to know that that's impossible. So Potter was a dead man walking. He should have. In fact, no. Let me not get there yet. I can pause here for a second and allow you to, if you have a response to what I just said, and then we could keep it moving.
No, I mean I kind of agree with that part with regards to like it. I did feel for him while things were happening because I'm like it. He was in a very precarious and almost untenable sort of situation. Like to be in a position as manager where you have a host of new signings and some of these guys, based on the price tag, you have to play them. You can't set them on the bench week in and week out. So even if you don't start them week in and week out, you have to try to integrate them. The whole Mudrik and all that kind of thing, right? Um, it would have been a very difficult situation to maneuver for any manager. That's the point, especially as you said, having no off season to train with the team. Um, but in the end, I think them changing direction, it just kind of signaled that Potter probably wasn't the guy. But you know what? We heading down a particular road. So I was just saying I agree with your point there about it him being in a kind of difficult situation. But go ahead. We come into the point.
All right, no problem. I can land it just now. I wanted to just add one other thing on this particular point where Chelsea is concerned. Remember, I just talked about how Chelsea has a reputation of firing managers.
Mhm.
Since 2000, AJ, Chelsea's had 17 managers. Claudio Ranieri, Jose Mourinho, Avram Grant, Scolari, Hiddink, Ancelotti, Andre Villas-Boas, Roberto Di Matteo, Rafael Benitez, Jose Mourinho again, Steve Holland, Gusinik again, Antonio Conte, Maurizio Sarri, Frank Lampard, Thomas Tuchel, Graham Potter, and now Bruno Saltor. 17 managers since the turn of the century. That is ridiculous. And yes, yes, we did see your first comment. We will not argue that one. So no, the second part of this Potter and thing, Potter and Chelsea discussion is just should Potter have been fired? Should Potter not fired? Should Potter have been hired? Should he have gone there in the first place?
Should he have been hired? No. Chelsea should not have gone for Graham Potter after releasing Thomas Tuchel. And I know this is a new administration, a new owner, everything. They shouldn't have moved on from Tuchel to Potter. That was a kind of it was a very weird and random decision to make at that point. It feels like they didn't necessarily do their homework on managers, but they were scrambling and they kind of like looked at someone who they figured yeah they'd be able to get after Tuchel was ousted. Because Tuchel and Bowley had internal problems. That's a lot of
Yes.
the reason why he left. It wasn't just on the field stuff. Is that Tuchel was basically bold enough to tell Bowley, he doesn't like what he's doing or he, like certain strategies or whatnot. Cool. So it was like Bowley had to flex some owner muscle, get him out. Then they couldn't really find anyone. They kind of scrambled, picked Potter because they knew he would be available. They shouldn't have hired him. Should Potter have gone there? Yes, yes, he should have. No, no, and we could mention like how many ever managers they had before. Granted, this is a new administration, so as many names as you mentioned, Todd Bowley hasn't fired that many people. He's fired one of those names, right?
Hmm.
You can't necessarily put all of those on him. But the main thing is here, Potter should have gone because he has to bet on himself. No, you can look at it from just the manager standpoint, just like the X's and O's standpoint as a manager, and like, all right, well, yeah, me being in this role, like, I don't think that Chelsea might be best because of what happens to managers and blah blah. But managers don't really like people don't really think like that. People don't generally think like that. What they think is that they will be the person to go in there and get the job done. And the reality is like so I had this discussion a couple of years back, right? When we were in during the pandemic times, and this was right before when Chelsea were about to sign Kai Havertz, and I had this discussion, and this is the same. I'm keeping the same energy as back then. I had this discussion with a couple of my bros, and they were saying that they believe that Kai Havertz should stay at Bayer Leverkusen. My response to that was stay at Bayer Leverkusen to do what? Bayer Leverkusen don't achieve anything. Like, I mean, as much as I don't like Tottenham because they don't do anything, Leverkusen does even less. In the history of this club, they've won a single trophy. So my point was that even if Kai Havertz was to move there, it wouldn't end his career, but he needs to jump aboard the train of the big team when they arrive. He went there. No, he hasn't been having the greatest time, but you know what he does have? A Champions League and a Champions League winning goal. So he's down in not just Chelsea, but European folklore. However you want to put it. You know what he wouldn't, if he didn't move, what he wouldn't have had? Those same two things. Because he wouldn't have achieved anything at Leverkusen. This is the same concept I'm going with for Graham Potter. Stay at Brighton to do what? Brighton is always going to be a stepping stone and a feeder club. That's the thing. When you as a manager, when you get into, even as a player, when you get into this sector, basically this job, this career path, you want to be on top. So whether that means earning the highest or it means playing or coaching at the highest level, there's no way Graham Potter wanted to stay at Brighton for the entire time, and especially in the 3 years that he was there, right? And this is something I was looking at. In the 3 years that Graham Potter was there, he was able to bring in, with along with his owners, they brought in 14 players, just 14. 11 of those they had to pay for. Um, Most of them have now moved on. If I'm correct, yeah, most of them have now moved on. The thing is, Brighton were never going to be able to compete at a higher level, and Graham Potter brought them as far as they could go. Essentially, he reached the apex of the rest of the league, basically, outside of that like top six and borrowing like one more team. And who else was going to give him a chance? Well, Arsenal job taken. Um, who was saying United jobs taken. Man City's definitely is. The Liverpool, you don't know what's going on, but as of now, it is. You can see it. It is taken, and then that leaves what? The scum. Like, come on. No matter how many managers Chelsea fire in a space of time, it it still is a better proposition as a manager than going to Tottenham. Let's be honest. So
Yeah, that's
so
true.
the exactly. So he didn't. It was more of an opportunity of a lifetime kind of thing for him, and I don't think that in all of this it has ruined his career as a manager. So he will still get another job and he could still work his way back up to the top. But growth happens outside the comfort zone. The man had to step away from Brighton and take this opportunity. Even though from the opposite side, it wasn't the best decision for Chelsea, he had to try it. He had to.
So here is where AJ, you and I probably will have our greatest disagreement on this show, because when I look at Graham Potter, and you so eloquently explained what happened just before he got hired, etc. When Chelsea were looking for a manager, they were looking for someone that they could grow with, that they could build with, that they could create something with. Because the new thing, or the new commentary that we're hearing, is that everybody's looking for the next Mikel Arteta. They want somebody, a young manager that they can put into a role and they can grow with him, that he can then take the team to new heights, where we can be patient, we can allow him to develop, and then we can see where this thing goes. That's why they went for Graham Potter, because Graham Potter at the time, what he was doing at Brighton, yes, he had probably reached as high as he could have gone with that squad. But the fact still remains, he had a squad that was playing together, playing progressive football and winning games. Not to mention chasing a hand in Liverpool every single time that they pitched up down at their stadium. So Potter was an attractive name. But when I think of Potter, I remember another attractive name that was in that list of Chelsea managers that I just read out. Ajay Bosch. He was a guy who was a young manager developing and playing progressive football, winning games, doing very well in Portugal. They brought him over and he struggled. What has become of Bosch since then? He ended up at the scum, Tottenham, as you said. I know he's out there pitched up somewhere in Russia or some far flung place as a manager. My point is this: not all money is good money, and not every opportunity should you take, because you should be looking at the situation, you should be looking at the landscape and telling yourself, really and truly, yeah, I have full confidence in my abilities, but I ain't got much confidence in them people. So look at it from this perspective. Roberto Di Matteo, they brought him in as an interim manager. Di Matteo came in, won the Champions League, was fired before Christmas the next season. They are accustomed to winning things with managers and firing them. There is nothing called job security when you are at Chelsea or when you're in Chelsea. So, me as a manager, Because if I am Graham Potter, yes, I am doing very well with Brighton. But you know what could possibly come for me from doing so well with Brighton? I could have a track to the England head coaching job. Because while they let Southgate know, you know how fickle those fans are, and sooner or later he's going to find himself on the outs. And if I can continue to keep Brighton punching somewhere between fifth and eighth, well, look at the managers above him. Almost, well, sorry, not almost. None of them are English. So no, you become the best English manager available, possibly available, and then you go off and you coach England as the new head coach. Is that opportunity still going to be there for him if he does not even last a season at Chelsea? I don't think so. Every other big club that has been, that is, well, not just in England, or let's say a middle tier club in England, no, is not going to bring in Graham Potter, not just after he got so unceremoniously dismissed at Chelsea. He could decide to leave England and go somewhere else. Do you think a team like a Sevilla or Valencia would choose to bring in Graham Potter at this point? I mean, Valencia did hire Gary Neville. We know how that one turned out. So they're probably off of Englishmen altogether. But when you look at all of these other places, all of these other teams, other situations that he could have found himself in, if he just continued to stay and build at Brighton, as opposed to the hit that his reputation is now taken, having struggled and suffered no this sacking at Chelsea, this is not good for him. This is not good for him at all. He should have stayed where he was.
I don't. It's not. It isn't. I. It's not bad for him. It's not. It's not bad for him. This is not going to define his career as a manager because in all the things that we're discussing, people are going to look at this and see as well that there was a new administration in power. I mean, people are already looking at Chelsea, the number of signings Chelsea made during the season, like the length of the contract. Like Chelsea itself is an entire discussion. It's not like this team this club as an organization has uh, like been like covering itself in glory again to use not to use that euphemism again, but still. So I don't think it ruins any sort of chance that Graham Potter has. And you mentioned the English thing, but English managers generally don't get many opportunities abroad. Not generally, not a lot. But you still have to bet on yourself when it comes. And talking about English managers, like I know this was very very long ago, but still, what's his name? Roy Hodgson back in the 90s. He managed in Sweden, Switzerland, then he took over the Swiss national team, and from there he got his big break, basically. And he had to bet on himself. Like Switzerland wasn't necessarily a powerhouse, so yes, the big break after that was going to Inter Milan, and he was at Inter for a couple of years. They got to the final of the UEFA Cup one of those years. He ended up getting fired after the two, or leaving, whatever it was, after the 2 years. And then from there, I'm not saying that made his career took off, but he still got jobs in and around like after that, right? And the team, part of the team that he built, went on to win the UEFA Cup the next year. The fact of the matter is, you need to do your job still as a manager. Graham Potter is going to get opportunities in England. He actually reportedly, well, if reports are to be believed, he's already actually turned down a job. I think it could have been even Leicester or something like that, but he was approached already, and he said no, he's going to take some time off. Graham Potter's going to get jobs. No, I don't think anyone thinks he's a bad manager because of this. It might look bad that he wasn't able to do the job at a big club, but at the same time, there's no other big club that was going to try to hire Potter in any case. And the England job will still be available. It'll still be available. Well, Gareth Southgate wasn't a great manager before England hired him. It'll still be
Still isn't.
exactly. But they're trying to hold on to him with this generation, even though they're trying to phase in the whole rebuilding factor under Southgate. But man, just trying to deny it, boy. Anyhow, um, I think that England opportunity will still be available for Potter. I think there still will be opportunities in England, and even if it's not England, he may get a one-off opportunity somewhere else, like I mentioned with Roy Hodgson or Steve McLaren and not Gary Neville. Gary Neville isn't good, but other like proper managers basically. I don't think his career is done because of this. It was one of those opportunities that I think you have to take when the big team train arrives. And again, being English, a lot of these bigger clubs weren't looking. They're not necessarily looking for an English manager. What they're looking for is like a more so a former player to come back who's gone into coaching to come back and lead this team, that kind of thing, or an already established big manager. That's for the big teams, and then Tottenham, right? So I really don't think it's over for Potter. And so let me make this point. So you mentioning the Brighton thing. Yes, he was doing a very good job at Brighton. We will both agree there, right? Um, but you have to look at the fact that Brighton is not always going to be a manager's dream because as they have a turnaround, a high turnaround when it comes to players. At the beginning of this season, Potter would have still been there. They lost four of their key players. Mark Cucurella, who they had brought in, and he played one good year, then they sold him for a profit, as you know, because Chelsea came knocking, right?
Hmm.
Bissouma, Trossard, who they lost to us. Well, that would have been after Potter left, but still, they sold Trossard halfway through the season after we approached them for Caicedo, and they didn't want to sell Caicedo, right? And then what
Hmm.
they do, they turn around and make Caicedo sign a bigger contract, so when they're ready to sell him, they could get more money. And then Neil Maupay, well, he ain't a big player. Maupay is garbage, but they lost him. They lost him. Maupay ain't a good. He ain't a good. But they lost him to a team who can pay more wages. So yeah, Ben White was a couple of years ago, Phil. But I was just talking about it like at the beginning of this season. But this just illustrates a point that players are always going to come in, have a short stay, and then leave Brighton because the Brighton owners are always going to want to sell. They made 137 million euros, 137.9, almost 138 million euros in transfers, outgoing transfers at the beginning of this season. What they spent 55.73 mil. That's what the owner's agenda is. So as a manager, it has to be frustrating at some point when you can't keep holding on to the players that you're bringing in because the owners want to sell to make a profit. That's just the kind of club Brighton is. They were never going to break into the top six. So if Potter saw that opportunity to be able to coach at that level with a team who is going to spend money, had to take it. It was unfortunate that it ended the way it did. But like I said, he looked kind of tactically lost too. And the man, as we've been seeing in the chat, the man looked like he aged about 20 years in that job. He just looked like he was not ready, but he bet on himself, and I can't blame him for that.
Well, Barbados MUFC, he is suggesting that Spurs and Potters just seem so well suited. I disagree,
No,
but
we
does
like Potter around here, man. I won't do that
yeah
to you.
we are actually fans of Potter. We would like to see him succeed and to see him grow and develop. And there's nothing. The only thing that grows in Spurs is weeds. So then there's no way that we would ever want him to go down there. He also did mention too that only one British manager has won the Premier League. That is unfortunately true. But when you have as much money knocking around in the Premier League as they do, they're not going to just take a risk on somebody like a Frank Lampard, except for Chelsea, who then turned around and fired him. Anyway, um, all right, we have another comment that came in here. There are some clubs that know they're just stepping stones to bigger clubs. Brighton, West Ham, Southampton, insert Dutch club here, insert German clubs below Bayern Munich. That is a very very fair statement because even like the Borussia Dortmunds, Dortmund has a similar philosophy to what you just described, AJ,
Yeah, their
where
model
they
is very similar. Yeah.
they buy on the cheap and they sell on the expensive, but because Germany is not nearly as competitive as England, then Dortmund is able to continue to come second
And
because
and and to that point, right? I just wanted to add as well, like Brighton actually deserves a lot of credit as a football club,
yes, they do.
because they clearly have a very good scouting team and they have
Hmm.
good enough coaches within that organization because they always create some gems. Clearly, like they always find these gems, and we expect the big clubs to do this because they hire like the cream of the crop when it comes to like the scouting and coaching positions. But for a club like Brighton, to maintain the way that they have, even after losing Potter. I mean, it'll take a little while to steady the ship for Deserby to steady the ship, but at the same time, he's not doing badly though. And they're about to lose Matoma too. I wish it could be to us, but hey,
Yeah, that young boy is playing some really great football. But
he is.
you said that it's for De Serbi to steady the ship. De Serbi has his men at sixth, so
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
he's doing
I
a
meant
very good job over
he
there.
is, he is. I mean, in terms of like, I just said so because he just came in. I mean, in terms of like consistency throughout a couple seasons, that's what I meant more so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we spent the first half hour talking about Chelsea and Potter. So I don't think we need to spend as long on the other one that I had really planned for us to talk about, and that
Mm.
was Leicester City and Brendan Rodgers. Leicester, they also joined the start party, firing FA Cup winning head coach Brendan Rodgers. Was it really time for Rodgers to go?
Ever since, ever since, ever since. To So we just spoke ad nauseum at length about Brighton and their philosophy with selling players and stuff. No, Leicester wasn't necessarily the same thing, you know. They don't necessarily have the same turnover and sell players in the manner that a Brighton would or whatnot. Yes, you could say like some of the players have aged and whatnot, and it was just like a loss of form for a lot and stuff. And obviously they did have to sell a few, the Fofanas and whatnot. But I mean, he even managed to hold on to a player like Yuri Tielemans, even though it seems you're about to lose him. But Brendan Rodgers just couldn't get it done. He just could not get these men to play any sort of incredible football, and he has good enough footballers in that team. He has good enough talent in that team, and the team just looks tactically inept. They don't necessarily attack well. They don't defend well as a unit, and they're not. You know what? They are really bad. They're almost terrible for real. And it wouldn't be a surprise if they went down. And I think the owner saw that, and instead of like just prolonging the pain, they got rid of him. Finally, he should have been gone long before Potter, though, from Chelsea. That is, he should have been gone a long time now. It should have never gotten to this.
No, but the thing is, really and truly, Brendan Rodgers, for me, at this point in time, the ship is pretty much sailed, you know. There's no way Leicester is staying up now. Leicester
Yeah.
is as good as gone. So what's the point of firing Brendan Rodgers at this point? I mean, we can come to talk about the league and the table in a
Mm.
second, but Rodgers wanted firing maybe just before the World Cup. He wanted firing in January. He wanted firing at a time that you could bring in somebody to actually bring something out of this squad.
Yeah.
For all of the managers and the athletes, they have a beautiful article written on this, which I found was very, very interesting, and it helped me to pull together some of the numbers for this particular segment. They said that for all the clubs that have fired managers like February and after, you know that only three of them have had any kind of benefit in terms of their league position because they fired their manager. Only three teams for the entire history of the Premier League have had an uptick of one position. It's not as if to say, well, we were in 18th, we fired the manager, and then we suddenly end up in 13th. No, you were 18th, and probably you got to 17th if you're lucky. But most of the teams that fired managers, they stayed round about the same position that they were in.
I guess the exception is Unai.
Yes. So, yeah. So to cleanse our palate of that, we have a question in the chat. Would you guys take Madison as a backup to Odegaard or an ESR, which is Emil Smith role, you believe?
Ah, so okay. Me me be very candid here about this, right? At the beginning of this season, it was this season because last year he was on loan, right? Odegaard, he was on loan last year, and then we signed him permanently this year. Well,
I
at the
think
beginning
so.
of this season, yeah,
Mhm.
because he only been with us 2 years, and one was loan, yeah. Before that was Danny. So at the beginning of this season, we were linked with three different like attacking minded players, creative players. And I won't lie to you, after what I'd seen from Odegaard last year, I wasn't too thrilled about bringing him back. I thought he was just too slow on the ball. He used to kill players. And never doubted his ability. I just thought he used to play too slow especially in moments where we needed to hurry up a bit. I actually had him at the bottom of the three. At the top of that three, because the other two were Bernardo Silva, and then the one who I had on top was James Madison. I actually wanted James Madison ahead of it. And now I admit that was the one transfer I got wrong. Everybody else in the Arteta era that I said was a bad transfer, it proved to be true. The ones that I said were good proved to be true as well, except for Odegaard. But I did want Madison. Now, fast forward to at this point in the season, would I want Madison at Arsenal? Possibly, yes. The thing is, I don't know if Madison would want to come in and definitely be backup in this team. If he's okay with being a rotation player in our team, then I'm quite fine to take Madison as a squad player. But he would have to understand his role. I don't I don't I don't think at this point there's anyone in the team he could walk in ahead of, and that has nothing to do with his talent. It just more so has to do with the manager's preference and the way the team has gelled and molded. But I'll hand it over to you. Your thoughts?
So I did want Madison as well. I was a big, I can't say believer, because as much faith and enthusiasm I had for Madison back then, I've lost pretty much all of it. I I think that Madison is a good player, and when Madison came in or would have come to us, we would have needed him in the squad. But no, we don't really need him. And
Yeah.
I have been more lenient as of late, as time has gone on, with the
Mm,
guys that um both Arteta and Edu have identified and brought in, because they have shown the ability to get some lesser players and turn them into some absolute gems.
mhm,
And right now, I look at Fabio Vieira more so than Smith Rowe, because Smith Rowe, we don't quite know what he's going to be, except that he's going to be injured. That seems to be the one constant. Um, but Fabio Vieira, he has not gotten as much opportunity, I'm sure, as he would have liked. We still have an opportunity to see what he can develop into.
yeah.
Madison coming in, if he's going to come in and give us the Santi Cazorla, that deep laying playmaker, if he's going to play that role, then sure, no problem. Because right now, we have Xhaka playing that role. And
Mhm,
Madison is better than Xhaka, except maybe in tackling, because Xhaka has found a way to get some discipline into his game. Cut out a
mhm,
lot of those stupid yellows and reds that he was picking up. So from that perspective, it's gonna take some displacing of Xhaka.
mhm.
Madison can't come and play the party role because he is not that kind of player. So would I want to bring him in still? Sure. Why not? We need good players in the squad. Our squad is still relatively thin in certain areas.
Mhm.
But like you said, he will have to come and understand that he is not going to be first choice. He has to play himself into being first choice, and that is going to take some doing. Now, with regards to Trossard, Trossard did come in kinda
That's
as a,
different. That's different, though, Phil. You want to go first, or you want me?
well, yeah, I could go first on this one.
Go ahead.
I saw Trossard. He did come in kinda as a backup, but when Trossard came in, he came in right after um, Gabriel Jesus had been injured.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So we needed somebody else to come and give us something up front. Eddie Nketiah, he was doing pretty well for a while, and then Eddie became what I always thought Eddie was, which is an okay player, but he's not good enough. He's not Arsenal standard. So Trossard coming in now, giving us the versatility, because he is able to play across the entire front line. He's never going to play on the right because Saka got that place on lock.
Mhm,
And then you were able to see him dovetailing with Martinelli, and our attack suddenly burst back into life. I can't really say that he came in as a backup, but he he didn't stay that way. He played himself then into a key rotational piece, if not a starter. But I'll let you chime in on that one.
Yeah, that's not necessarily a comparable situation, Mr. Big Phil. The thing is, Trossard, and I have to mention this again because on December 31st, Ken, I told one of my best friends, Jared, I have it in the conversation still. I said, this is December 31st. I was like, yo, I would take Trossard in it. I would take Trossard at Arsenal. I like Trossard as a player. Just looking at his style of play. 2-2s, we end up signing Trossard. So I couldn't be happier. I was a fan. The thing is, Phil, Trossard was always coming in as a very good squad player. Now, mind you, he may have been he had grown into like a key player at Brighton, but that's different from James Madison, who is supposed to be kind of like this golden boy. You know how England portrays their youth,
Mm-hmm.
and he is the talisman of Leicester City. He's like one of the club captains, everything. So to step from that role to jump into Arsenal to just have to accept a backup role is going to be different than a man who worked his way up. Basically, he's like white collar, blue collar. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a comparable situation. It's more understandable that Trossard would come into Arsenal's team with the way we were playing and be like, all right, well, yeah, I know I have to, when I get my shot, take my chances and then work my way into this team. As opposed to Madison, who's kind of, and I'm not saying that this is Madison's necessarily his mentality. I don't know that for sure. But in his situation, it'll be harder to accept being relegated to a bench role from being like the talismanic figure in a team and their main playmaker, the man who all of the football would go through, and the man wearing the captain's armband, that kind of thing. It that's apples and oranges.
Okay. All right. So now that we've exhausted the conversation on the pink slips, let's look at this. Let's look at this league table, AJ.
Hmm.
In relation to the EPL season as a whole, this season has been full of excitement for the neutral. Arsenal currently sit in the box seat still, for all of you who've been waiting for us to fall, still 8 points clear of Manchester City in second. And then three teams sit on 50 points: Newcastle, Tottenham, and Manchester United. But of those three in on 50, Spurs has played two games more than the other two. Brighton, as we mentioned before, are on their heels on 46 points, with Villa on 44 points, have played two games more. Then there's Liverpool and Brentford, both on 43 points, and they've played one more game. And then Fulham rounding out the top 10. Chelsea are in 11th, tied with Fulham on points, but with a minus one goal difference to Fulham's zero. 3 points separate Crystal Palace in 12th from Bournemouth in 18th, and 5 points from Leicester in 19th. We are set for an exciting showdown to the end of the season. What do you make of all this action? I just leave it open. You can go wherever you want to go first.
Ooh, I'm not going to get into Arsenal discussion because there'll be a lot to discuss with us. So I'm going to leave that aside, right?
Yeah, we can skip us for today.
Right. With regards to with regards to everything that's happening beneath us in the table, though, uh, had to throw that in there.
Of
No, I
course.
mean it is it's a lot going on um in terms of like the races for European places, and this is something that we in the last few seasons, I guess, were like had grown accustomed to for our team, like being in these kinds of tight races. But is there's a lot going on, even for the champ. I didn't even know if you just mentioned this. You probably did, but my mind was just kind of real far because I was checking out the table. But I did not realize how close Brighton was to the top four even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is amazing. The most outside of that, what I'm really interested at is this relegation scrap because just looking at the teams that could go down. One of my closest friends as well is a West Ham fan, like bona fide West Ham English dude, English Bajan West Ham fan. So for their sake, like I, for their sake and for my brother, I do not want West Ham to go down. But I think there are other teams that could go down. And I know you mentioned before that you think Leicester will. I still feel like Leicester could get out of there. You know, it is that tight. Nottingham Forest, I think, is going to be the new QPR with the way that they've spent money to bring in a host of players. I think they're just going to go down to the championship and then fizzle out. I really think that they're going back down. Yeah, Brighton has been consistent. Yeah, and this is just a personal vendetta, but I just really want Everton to go down. I think Everton's time in the Premier League has expired. I don't think the owners know what they're doing. I think this club doesn't make any sense because who in the HE double hockey sticks would look at Frank Lampard as a man with everything that he's actually done and then decide that he's the man to lead your project going forward? And then look
So
at
I don't want to cross you, right?
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I just want to stick a pin here because you mentioned Everton. I would like Everton to go down.
We
Everton
are in agreement.
Everton is so disrespectful as an organization. I want them to go down. And this is even before Frank Lampard. This goes back to Alisher Usmanov
Mhm.
and David Dane. When
Mm.
they left our club and went to Everton, remember they were saying how they were going to overtake us? And I think it was like 3 to 4 years. We had Arsenal players that left us that were not good enough for us and went to Everton and then had the world of talk at Everton. No, you are not good enough. Go away. You can go down. Please and
Yeah,
thanks.
I don't know anyone who likes Everton, bro. All of the other fans are like no one likes Everton. Just leave, bro. I care about Jake's feelings. Jake is one of my closest friends, one of my oldest and closest dearest friends. But yeah, I would love to get Declan Rice, though. I
But you
would
were
love to get
saying,
Declan.
you were looking at the table and you were saying,
Yeah, no, I think Everton is a team that could go down. Um, I just don't. The, I, what I would say is that I think Sean Dyche was actually a good hire at this stage.
yeah.
Yeah, he will. I feel like he could keep them up. I don't want him to, but I feel like he could keep them up. My only wonder is how long do you keep Dyche at the helm? And also, I have to add because I mentioned his name earlier. A lot of the reason I want Everton to go down is because I do not like Morpé. You know, I think Morpé is a trash player who just I just can't stand the guy. I just and after what he did to Leno and then had no remorse about it,
Mm.
acting like he did nothing wrong. I hope I really want Brighton to make Europe and Everton to get relegated. That's for he. That's all.
No, you said Sean Dyche, right? Sean Dyche to me right now is the 2020s version of Sam Allardyce. He is the firefighter. He's the man that when you're about to go down, you bring him in to get you back to safety, and then when you start progressing at the table, you get rid of him to
Yeah.
bring in somebody that's a little bit more progressive. But I I'm not that big a fan of Dyche necessarily. I don't like his style of football. His style of football has caused us some problems in the past, which is why I was glad that we hammered him when he had come in. That made me feel really good. But yeah, Everton can go. For me, the place that I really wanted to go was back at the top of the table, AJ. I just needed to
No,
make
go ahead. Go ahead.
I just needed to
Let me
make
segue to
mention
there.
of
Yeah.
the fact that for a while we were hearing that Manchester United, sorry Phil, was in the title race. Manchester United had dreams of the title because, as everybody has been telling me and probably you all season long, the expectation is that Arsenal are going to fall off. They're going to drop off. Arsenal are not going to be there at the end of the season. And it was, to me, it was disingenuous and disrespectful when we were still winning games and out front like Suki King and just running to tell me that a team that is at that point in time, I think there were either 8 to 11 points behind us in the table.
Yeah.
We're still in the title race. When yes, they were third, we were first, and City was still second. Since then, Manchester United has lost 7 of to this poor Liverpool team. Okay, Phil. I'll read your comment before I go any further. Let's be clear. Only rival fans of Paul Scholes have Man United in the title race. I ain't that gullible or naive. I am glad to hear that, sir. Up and on to you. Because I don't know where they were getting this from. At the point of this recording, Manchester United have 2 games in hand on Arsenal and are a whopping 22 points behind the Gunners. At the time when Manchester United was being talked about as potentially being in the title race, AJ, the number of points that they were projected to score if they had won every game from them was 76.
Mm.
When last has a Premier League champion won the league with 76 points? How would they
I
be?
didn't even know.
How would they be in the title race and only score 76 points on the season? Is impossible.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Impossible. And to the Liverpool fans, this is my time to stick a knife right here and on this show. Because I do not know where the Liverpool fans get off telling us anything at all, all about this season. Liverpool were chasing a quadruple at one point in time, they were saying. Even though this team has done absolutely nothing all season long, they have been sorry. I almost said they were the worst big team in this season, but that title definitely goes to Chelsea because I mean Liverpool was ninth and Chelsea was 10th. There's no way that I can put that on Liverpool. But the fact still remains when your manager is going to ask after the Champions League final last season, where's the final next season? But the hotel, I guess he just wanted to take the missus on a vacation because there's no way that Liverpool was going to be turning up in that game. We saw how poor they've been playing all season long. All season long. And these Liverpool fans have the audacity to unpick their teeth and tell Arsenal fans anything. Go there and polish the trophies that you've won before. But this season, your cabinet is going to look just like Tottenham's. Don't tell me anything, please and thanks.
I don't even know. You had Liverpool fans besides the one fan that both of us know in the chat. I ain't calling the names, but the one who's still bright guy enough to be making conversation instead of just studying his league table position. I don't know any other Liverpool fans who have been like disrespected. Well, you know what? And that other um, uncultured Philistine on social media, Jonathan Morley, who is just becoming even more popular week by week by ranting about Arsenal. You see, this is the dark side of sports media. Man, just getting popular for talking foolishness every week. He and another Liverpool fan, Ken, did a big six to joint 11 and had about 9 Liverpool players,
I
including
think I
Darwin Nunes on the left and Trent at right back. And Trent at right back.
nah,
The only
AJ.
Arsenal player in the team was Odegaard. The only Arsenal player in the team was Odegaard.
Nah,
And this man
AJ.
had to be. I'm telling you. Trent at right back and
Trent
Darwin Nunes on the left.
Trent that became a verb in one of our chats for messing up.
I didn't even. I missed that one.
When you may have not been paying attention to that particular chat,
Probably.
but
Yeah.
when somebody's phone started malfunctioning or the predictive text or the spell check was malfunctioning, you may say that it was Trenton. It was Trenton. You can tell me that Trent Alexander-Arnold and Darwin Nunes. That in fact I
Yeah.
can
Let me just leave that.
yeah
Yeah. That's it.
yeah
That's
you
it.
could yeah. So I mean, all right, I have my little rant there for the top of the table thing, but the way how this league table is shaped up, the good thing for Chelsea is that they have that 9 point gap between them and Crystal Palace in 12th.
Mhm.
Because if it was not for that, especially with the poor form that they have exhibited all season long, Chelsea easily could find themselves dragged into this relegation race. Because to to show you how tight it is, Leeds United won today. They were in the relegation zone before the game kicked off today.
Yeah, yeah,
They've
they were.
jumped from 18th
To
to
13th.
13th.
Yeah, they're in 13th now.
So, and you would look at 13th and tell yourself that you should be safe. But no, not when there's only 3 points
Yeah, boy.
between all of these teams here.
Yeah, boy.
It is rough in the Gideon for everybody that is 12th and below. All right, so we've almost been here an hour. One of the things they have planned that we were going to talk about today, we could leave that for next week because that's not
That's
going to be
fine.
fun.
That's fine.
But we can't get out of here before talking about the champions because it's in this the title of today's episode.
Mm-hmm.
We go from the beautiful game to the college hardwood, and congratulations must go out to the LSU Tigers and the Yukon Huskies for capturing the respective women and men's NCAA tournaments. This was my first time trying to fill out a bracket for the NCAA tournament, and my bracket was done done in the Elite Eight completely.
Yeah.
All my teams that I had picked to win were in the
Damn.
Elite Eight. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was rough. March Madness has come to an end, and these two programs stand at the top of college basketball. But the biggest story of the weekend came from LSU's Angel Reese, who is being called classless and all other negative pejoratives today for using a hand gesture popularized by John Cena. You can't see me. What has rankled most is that she did this in a prolonged manner in the direction of Caitlin Clark. Oh, not to mention, she was pointing at the ring finger like, yeah, put my ring on my hand. But the thing about Caitlin Clark is that, she had done the same hand gesture just one round prior to her opponents. So, AJ, as we get out of here, is this whole controversy overblown?
I know you have the topic there, right? But I want you to put up Big Phil's comment, his last comment there.
Oh, no, that Dave Portnoy can, that
Correct.
he's one of the biggest
Because
hypocrites?
this is where I'm going to start.
Sure.
Dave Portnoy is a pompous, self-righteous Neanderthal, and and excuse me, but I have to say this time, he is a piece of shit. Dave Portnoy is. This man has, you know how I feel about Urban Meyer already.
Yes.
Dave Portnoy could be Urban Meyer's boss with how much of a piece of crap he is. This man has absolutely no morals and he's a grown man. He is a grown man. Imagine picking on a 20-year-old college student. And furthermore, he's racist. I'm going to say it. He is racist. He has proved that in the past and said that he's uncancelable. So nobody could cancel him. And also, he did this in the past to Colin Kaepernick. And now is going to talk about sportsmanship and act like it's not about race. Of course, it's overblown. This is we being serious here. Classless because the difference is that she followed her around. When Caitlin Clark was doing it, there was no issue. Like it is the nature of sports generally. It's a part of the game. Where even Caitlin Clark today, on whichever ESPN show it was, said that Angel Reese deserves no criticism for that. But the entire thing is being overblown because that piece of stool who started Barstool, and this is why I don't follow that media outlet. I don't follow them on any platform. I don't look for any of their things. And you could see the kind of people, all they like to do is sensationalize sports media. And then they get their jollies off of that. And this idiot, Dave Portnoy, this is what he does. He likes to stay relevant by talking crap about people. In this case, a 20-year-old black girl who just won a national championship. Yes, she was over exuberant. You might find it a bit in poor taste as a sportsman, the fact that she followed her own, but who cares? She's a 20-year-old college student. You mean to tell me that this man specifically, who has the emotional intelligence of a 6-year-old, that at 20 years old he was any better than what she is now? Let the girl live, nah. Let the girl live. Caitlin Clark, she dish it. And up to now, this is what's get me is when people attack someone and then for doing something, and then the victim of that of who's on the other side of the entire discussion, they come out and absolutely nullify the entire thing and say, "Nah, well, I don't have an issue with it." Even though Caitlin Clark may have had an issue with it that night or whatever, she had her time to process, and she came out and she's calm. She said she doesn't have any issue. But nah, this man would take to Twitter and call a girl classless and a POS and all sorts of. Listen, when I tell you I cannot stand the best bone in this guy's body, and I have to mention him because he is the main proponent of all of this. Ken, he's the one that's fueling this. There was this other guy, Keith Olbermann or whatnot, and he had his stuff to say. I replied to him on Twitter too. Because the two of them could only be idiots, and he had to backtrack on it, not because of me, obviously, but when he learned more information about the situation, he backtracked. Ken, no, the thing about the race card here is that we will not know for sure whether it is about race or not. Because those who are against what she did will always deny that it's about race because they don't want to come across as racist, right? So we won't know for sure. You and I, people of our color, we are going to suspect that it is because of the lack of reciprocity when the other party does it, right? But we will never be able to fully prove that. That's just our belief. What we can prove, what we know for sure, is that this is a 20-year-old college student. 20 years old. Let the girl friggin' live. I haven't had a rant in a while. I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
That's okay. I mean, if Barstool were ever planning to give us some checks, I guess that is definitely out the window now.
Pull myself on and let you do it. I'm not going to degrade myself morally by doing anything with Barstool ever. I do not rate Dave Portnoy. I have no respect for the man. I would never work with him. Never ever in life.
Understood. I mean, I was just being facetious because we don't have no calls with Barstool.
I get you.
If they were watching this episode, I'm sure that they'll not call us now.
I think our content either way. Sorry, let me just add. I think our content either way is too pure for Barstool. We don't come out and just talk crap all over the place and get views by sensationalizing stuff. So that's what Barstool does. So be clear.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. No, Phil, he definitely agrees with you. He says, well, it's worse that Portnoy all of a sudden wants to play victim to something he started. That's the sort of you can get away with in the West. All right. I mean, that is fair. My response to this entire situation, I guess, is a little more measured than yours. But I listened today to The Right Time with Bomani Jones. I must give credit where credit is due because I'm sure that something that he said is going to influence what I'm about to say. And this is why I generally try not to listen or watch anything before we do our show because I like to have my own thoughts come out. And whatever I say here, I write my notes, I do my research, but most of the comments, most of the thoughts are mine. I don't know how much of it might be influenced by him, but anyway, here goes. One of the things that Bo made mention of is the fact that when not Caitlin, some of the players from LSU, they made mention of, or I think it was the same Angel Reese. She talked about how the Iowa team had defended their opponents in the Final Four before the championship game. And like Bo said that they were defending them like there was a bunch of Ben Simmonses on the court. They were literally lagging off them and inviting them to shoot the three.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw mention of that on social media. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, like LSU going into this game on Sunday, they're shooting 19% from three. If someone is shooting 19% from three, why wouldn't you let them shoot the three? Why would you bother to get up on them? Mm-hmm. But they said that they took it personally. Just like Michael Jordan, things that had nothing to do with them, they took it personally. I came out here, beat the brakes off of Iowa in this championship game. Now, if you can dish it, you have to be able to take it. That's something that my father instilled in me as a child because I have always been quick-witted and full-mouthed, and I could have always take when somebody was, firing back at me. But if you can dish, you gotta be able to take. And regardless of the point in time in the game in which Caitlin Clark decided to shake her hand at her opponent, and then she goes up against this opponent in the game, and Injuries does the same. If you can dish it, you gotta be able to take it. Clearly, she can take it. It's just everybody else that's looking at this situation can't take it. And a lot of the people who are making the commentary that she did what she did was so bad and so classless and this thing and the next thing, they don't look like us, AJ. That's that's one of the main things that come out here. They don't look like us. And
Hmm.
whenever somebody don't look like us and they suddenly have a problem with something, it becomes a bigger issue than anything that someone that looks like them would have ever done. So when I see this, and you remember, I know, well, I'm hoping that you saw it, but Dawn Staley, and I think she's the head coach of USC or one
Yeah,
of those
she's a head
programs.
coach somewhere. Yeah.
Her team, who is predominantly black, they got knocked out of the tournament. And apparently, somebody got in the media and said that they play like thugs. And Don Staley said, watch how you, the media, talk about my team and talk about my players. Because when you talk about them, this goes far and wide. And those are the kind of things then that LSU, which is another predominantly black team, will take personally when they're going up a team like Iowa State, that is predominantly white. I think Iowa State probably has one black girl on their entire squad.
Mm.
So you have all of this bubbling in this pot. And then you have a black girl who is unapologetically black, rocking her weave and all, going into this championship game. And maybe if you just look at the numbers, it might not seem so impressive. But she goes for 15 points, 10 rebounds. She has 6 offensive rebounds, which is more than Iowa had for the entire game. By herself, she had 6 offensive rebounds and 0 turnovers
Hmm.
versus Caitlin Clark, who had 30 points, went 9 of 22 shooting, 8 of 19 from 3, 6 turnovers. If you look at those numbers and the fact that which team won, Angel Reese had the better game. And she was rightfully crowned the best player of the tournament. And all of this, those members of the media cannot let that stand. That is why this is going to be overblown. Yes, maybe she did overdo it a bit. If you just walk in front of Caitlin Clark and just and keep it moving, maybe we don't have all of this controversy. But when she's trying to walk away from you and you're just walking behind her like, yeah, you don't want to see me, but you can't see me anyway. This is the kind of discourse that this is going to create.
And let me be clear about it, right? I'm not. I didn't get this livid because people have take like people because people took exception to what Angel Reese did. I know we've been doing this for a while. We've had many a discussion even before we started the GreenBaje podcast. You know that I'm not a man who's for like the poor sportsmanship and people taunted. That's not really my game, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily like it. You know, I went off on Tyreek Hill for the
Mm-hmm.
peace sign. I don't necessarily like that, but there's a manner in which you could voice your displeasure for something without attacking the person.
Mm-hmm.
With that, and that is my issue. How Dave Portnoy specifically, is how he worded his displeasure. He called her classless and a piece of. Ken, this is a 20-year-old girl, though.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Portnoy is about 44, 45. He could have a daughter that old. For real, though? Like, I mean, the man has no morals. Like, he is actually a piece of crap. But if he did have morals, you think like, as a man, you would want somebody calling your daughter that? He's old enough to be that child's father. Like, come on. If a simple yeah, that was just a bad move by Angel Reese. Like, you could watch your displeasure in some way. Yeah, everyone, they have the right to feel a kind of way because yes, as you said, it may have seemed a bit overblown. I don't have a big issue with it, not at that level. I think
Mm-hmm.
when you get into the pros, like you need to have a bit more decorum and that kind of. But even so, I'm not going to cast aspersions on your character because you do that. Like that's Tyreek Hill's character. Like, I don't dislike Tyreek Hill because of it. I just don't like when he does that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't go and say, well, Tyreek Hill is a bad person or he's a piece of ish because of doing. Nah, come on. Let us keep individuals and their personalities separate from their on court or on field personality. Don't do that. That's disgusting. That's actually disgusting, and it's so overblown now. This man has given him and others have given this so much light. It's to the point now. I'm pretty sure you saw this where Jill Biden wants to invite Iowa to the White House. Ken, that
She
is
said it was a joke.
utterly
She said
okay.
she come
Okay,
back and said it was a joke.
yeah, it was a joke because of the backlash. She and Slick, she and Slick. It was a joke because of the backlash. Because I'm pretty sure they would have wanted to do it, but then no, Black Twitter had their way with that. And yeah, obviously she would come back and say it's a joke. No, but anyhow, I wouldn't get into that. I'm just really disgusted by the manner in which. But then again, it is Dave Portnoy. I don't know if you even saw my tweets because I replied to some of his. I quote tweeted some of his. He has been a POS for the longest time, so I guess he understands POS behavior. But leave the 20-year-old girl alone. Let her enjoy her ring. You bum.
And that is a great spot to end this episode of the GreenBaje podcast. We've been here for a little bit. We could not get out of here without talking about Angel Reese and, defend the young lady for a bit. I mean, we still do agree that, maybe she could have comported herself a little bit better. But Portnoy, as Phil agrees with AJ, he's a piece of he's a piece of spurs. So yeah, that's where we will end our episode for this week. For those of you who have been with us and active in the chat, we thank you so very much. We appreciate your time and your contributions to our show. We've had fun with you, and I hope that you've had fun with us as well. We invite you, as always, to like this video, subscribe to our channel, tell a friend, and hit that notification bell so that every time that we go live, you will be here with us. We do not take it for granted. We thank you so very much for your time. Tell a friend, please help us to grow. And as always, that is AJ. He is the green, the passionate green. I am Ken. I am the beige. And we will see you next time.